Let's bring right now Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware today. The Senate's going to honor Vice President Joe Biden in a series of speeches.
As they should.
And Senator Coons, who holds the Senate seat that Biden occupied for over 3 decades, spearheaded the bipartisan effort to formally celebrate Joe Biden's years in service. He got there under the most tragic of circumstances when he was 29. Very few people have contributed more to that chamber in our lifetime. Tell us about Joe Biden.
36 years that Joe Biden's been fighting for the state of Delaware and representing us in the Senate, and now 8 years serving our whole country as vice president. Later today at 3 o'clock, we're going to have a terrific bipartisan tribute to Joe Biden's career in public service and celebrating his next chapter, launching the cancer moonshot. Later today, we're going to be passing the 21st Century Cures bill. And in a very emotional moment Monday evening, where the vice president was presiding over the Senate, we unanimously voted to rename the nearly $2 billion cancer moonshot portion of that bill in honor of Joe's beloved son, Beau. So I expect today to be a great moment of bipartisanship and of reflecting on everything that Joe Biden has meant to us, my state of Delaware, our country, and the world.
Senator, talk about that a little bit more, the bipartisanship, but the personal relationships that the Senate has been so famous for across the years. Mitch McConnell, in opposition to nearly everything Barack Obama and the Biden administration stood for, he'll be right there today.
Absolutely. There's relatively few things that Leader McConnell and Leader Reid easily agreed to, but when I first suggested this, they both were excited about this opportunity. As I've spoken to other senators, we have many more lined up to speak today than we have floor time. After today, we're going to present to the Vice President a bound copy of all the speeches that will be given today by dozens of senators. Part of why he's got such bipartisan cred, why he is so loved by senators of both parties, is that the very tragedy that has touched him, that has defined his life, has also made him incredibly empathetic. Any of us who've lost a loved one know what it's like to have a call from the vice president or a visit from him. He is capable of being incredibly comforting. He's also really capable of standing up and fighting for those who've lost a job, who've lost hope, or who've lost a loved one.
Senator Coons, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. I applaud you for spearheading this. We're all looking forward to seeing the bipartisan praise that he so richly deserves. Do want to ask you while we have you here about some politics and President-elect Donald Trump. You've been supportive of General Mattis, who will be named Secretary of Defense. Are you more or less encouraged by what you've seen out of Donald Trump in the last 20 or so days since he was elected? Obviously, you didn't support him to be the president, but now he is. Do you feel better than you did when he was elected?
Well, it's somewhat of a mixed bag, his transition process and the folks who he's nominated so far. Some of them are strikingly unqualified to run major federal agencies. Some of them, like General Mattis, have impressive, long, deep records of service. And so it's my hope that ultimately, after the confirmation process, we'll end up with a Trump administration, with a Trump cabinet that is broadly representative of our country and includes a lot of folks with the kinds of strength and skills that General Mattis will bring to the job of Secretary of Defense if he's confirmed.
So you've been encouraged by some picks and not by others. Which are the ones that have discouraged you?
Well, you know, there's some who are terrific people, I suspect. I don't know, for example, Governor Haley of South Carolina, but her previous experience in foreign policy, I think, is somewhat limited. Dr. Ben Carson, who's been nominated to run the housing agency, which is a nearly, I think, $36 billion federal agency. He's recognized as a very talented neurosurgeon. But just because you live in a house doesn't mean that you're qualified to be the Secretary of Housing for all of the country. I have a brain, but that doesn't qualify me to be a brain surgeon. And I do think we'll have some questions about whether or not some of these folks who've been nominated really have the depth and the qualifications.
Yeah.
So, well, but Senator, actually,
even he himself said.
I was going to say, in Ben Carson's defense, he himself has said he's not qualified to run it. So I think he's with you on that. Senator Chris Coons, thank you.